ahead.
Sure, Priyanka. So I am Rajesh Agarwal. Many of you know me. I am heading the process engineering cell at Datamatics. I have joined by my team here, which includes Satyam Pandya, Shantilal Nakrani, Satrajit Bari. Most of you might have worked with them on some of the opportunities. We have two new members also joining us, helping us in this journey. Their name is Pramod and Srinivas. So right now in this room we have six of us. I'm getting them on this call because on various occasions you will need them and you should know them and they should know you. So I'll start with the presentation and demo, and I am assuming that you all can see my screen, and I have the first intro, this slide on RPA, the first slide. So Priyanka, you can see that my screen, right?
Yeah, Rajesh, it's visible.
So we are going to go through this agenda, although maybe we'll fall short of time in this 1 hour. We did the similar session for my Datamatics team, and you will be surprised that we ended up taking 4 hours. So I don't know how I crunch it in 1 hour, but I'll try to do that whatever I can. And whatever is left and whatever is critical and still to be covered, we can have a follow-up session and we can request Priyanka to set up one more session. Many of us know RPA, but I'll still introduce basically like it's a automation, it's a robotic software, it's not a physical robot, it's a software robot which interacts with the UI of the application, the user interfaces or GUI of the application, not the backend but the front end, and integrates and works and like a human being and manages this process automatically, which is like called as robotics process automation. So it mimics human actions, it performs data migrations, it manages repetitive actions efficiently. So to give an example, if you have got two or more systems who are not talking to each other and are not possible to integrate for various reasons, like either they are not exposed with API web services because they are legacy systems, or there is some technical reason or security reason for not integrating them from the back end, or for the cost and time part of managing them direct integration, they are not able to talk to each other, and we end up doing this manual data transfer across the system. We have been deploying robotics for that type of scenario very effectively. Second is there a lot of repetitive manual actions inside one system or across the system, like selecting the logging into the system, selecting the drop downs, selecting the transaction code, entering the data, hitting the submit button, seeing the validation messages, doing the needful, and submitting the transaction, getting the transaction number, unique number, and putting it in the log, audit log. Everything can be automated like that. So we'll talk about some of the use cases, but the definition is it is referred to the automation using the user interfaces, which is going to be disruptive technologies because it's like a Google's driverless car. And as you all know, Tesla has become the most valued brand in the automobile manufacturing. So this software robots will make the computers run on its own without having the operators around it. It's going to be a game changer. And market has been moving very fast on this side, on the RPA side, especially in the BFSI. As you can see the graph in front of you, it has moved from 51 million to 69 in last 1 year, which was little slow, but now you can see the speed. In 2 years, it's supposed to be more than double, and then a sudden jump by 2020 up to 835. And the CAGR is of 75%, which is very, very good. Some of the adoption processes in BFSI, we'll talk about that, but this is reports are saying that there are a lot of processes possible to automate in the BFSI sector, which includes the risk compliance, and the regulatory compliance, sourcing, procurement, and F&A space. Impact is very, very significant. We talked about the high growth already, 75%. It minimizes the cost, improves the profitability, At the same time, it directly impacts on the bottom line, quality of services improve, agility improves, and operational costs come down. And it also reduces the operational and technology risk, which is very important because when the processes are manual, they are not only slow and error prone, but there is a risk element, especially in the BFSI sector, because the operator who is working on it may introduce some fraudulent transaction or amount or something like that, which will create a problem, whereas the robotics will never do that. So Datamatics approach to robotics is there in front of you now. First one is that we have our own software called iBridge, which is our own IP, and that gives the advantage of offering a greater flexibility and scalability to our clients. We are not dependent on third party for the product enhancement. We can do any kind of customization needed by our clients in a given time frame, and we can satisfy the client needs much better than anybody else. These are the virtual robots emulating human actions, and they are programmed for repetitive processes, which you already talked about in the definition. And the other thing is that they are very non-intrusive in nature, so they don't expect when I install a robotics application in my client premises, I am not expecting the client to change any of the processes or any of the applications. So the change management is very minimal. It's very fast to implement them and start deriving benefits, and it's very light on the machines, and it's very less dependent. The dependency on the IT side is very minimal. So we don't need a lot of IT permissions and security aspects to be adhered to. Basically, just we need access to the application to be installed on the desktop and a proper login credentials to be given to that application to log into the client systems. Beyond that, we don't need much of permissions, or we don't have to do like a proper detailed audit whether it's touching the data, what will happen to the data, is it changing anything, nothing of that sort. So it's very fast to implement and start deriving the benefits. And our robots, especially from Datamatics, are intelligent. That's why the name starts with I, small I. That stands for intelligence. We make our softwares very intelligent, and they can differentiate between what is right and what's wrong. They have some extra checks and balances built into it, so that when they are performing the transactions automatically, they are highly accurate. And when the robots have run, we don't have to deploy people to check the work done by the robots. They can take it for granted that whatever robotics has done is accurate. Whatever they could not do, any which way, it will be marked as an exception and send as an alert to the operators who can do a manual intervention.
So, Rajesh, one question here.
Sure, please go ahead.
So do we use any algorithms or anything to make sure the accuracy is achieved? Can we specify any algorithm names? And also, do we do any machine learning based on the past records? Will the robots have a machine learning capability where they can correct themselves in future like that to increase the accuracy?
No, answer is no, but that's possible, and we have a separate team which does AI, cognitive and machine learning, and I believe Signex also has that capability. So our robotics coupled with that piece can do justice the way you said. It can learn from the past history, it can do machine learning, it can do even NLP from the unstructured content. But right now the one which I am managing for my clients is a level 1 of robotics, which does not have the machine learning and cognitive elements. But we do offer that, and we have a separate team for that in Datamatics, and I believe even Signex is doing that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So these are the challenges which robotics applications solve. One of them is manual processes, time consuming and error prone. We already discussed that. The solution is that software will read the data and place it automatically into the other system much faster and more accurate. The second one, the batch file transfer and real-time integration will need programming and necessary permissions. Here, this will be done from the front end, and all the front end validations will still happen. Manual data entry. Here, iBridge will do the data entry from both sides, like it will transfer data from one system to another, perform the transaction, and the confirmation ID or transaction ID or some unique transaction number will be brought back to the previous system, confirming the transfer of data. manual understanding of error and manual rectify. Suppose if the date format is not valid, name is incomplete, or some kind of validation failure message or system error messages come up, iBridge is intelligent enough to read them and act upon them like a human being. We have won several awards for our iBridge RPA software, including IMC, CSI, CIO Choice Award. We have already implemented more than 200 processes for more than 500 desktops for some of the clients. We have 30 plus clients, one of them the largest private bank in India, but we have also worked with insurance sector, manufacturing. Through Signex, we got significant number of leads, and one bank we have gone live with already 2 processes. And we have almost like 75 plus RP experts working from various offices. Most of our experts in RPA side work out of client offices because we are working on client systems. But there are some cases of processes which we are able to do it from our office, mainly on the systems which are in public domain. Like for one of the banks in Middle East, we are doing the credit scoring process automation. So we log into their account, and then we download the reports, credit reports like CIBIL report we have in India. Then we create a score sheet for them based on certain parameters, and we create a score, and we, based on the rules, we say that this is doable, this is not doable, this is the recommendation, and then the bank takes it up for the confirmation. So that we are able to do it out of our office, because that can be accessed through internet. We don't need the local access in their environment. So we have some cases, some exceptions where we are able to work out of, or if the client gives us the remote access, which sometimes, especially in the banks, is not possible. But some of the manufacturing clients and all, we are able to do a lot of automation for their shared service centers out of our own office. And we use iBridge, IQ, all the proprietary tools for RPA implementation. So this is important. I'll talk about this again. IQ being our data capture solution for the scanned documents. So most of the people who are doing RPA may not have that flexibility to include the documents in RPA. If the process does not begin with electronic data, but it begins with a physical document, then they are not able to automate them because they don't have the intelligent character recognition engine which we provide, and that is called IQ, and we are able to do equal justice to the processes which are starting with the document. So we have some of the unique propositions from our side. One of them is what we already talked about, the intelligence, and it's a not a product. Of course, we have a product, but we don't give it as a product. We create the complete solution around it. So we understand the problem statement client is facing. We plan it out and we implement it for them. So we take the total process automation ownership. We don't leave it to them and they struggle with it and they take a lot of time to manage it. We manage it for them, and we take the ownership, and we set the target that, okay, this automation will give this kind of efficiency gains. This will be the timeline in which it will be implemented. This will be the accuracy enhancement. This will be the cost reduction, and we make sure that we achieve those targets. And as you already discussed, that this has minimal interference with the current processes and the system, so client can continue to do it their own way. So they follow their own processes. We have got more than almost like 10 plus years of experience. That's the important point, like even before the RPA as a term was coined by Gartners of the world, that, it's become famous and very hot. We have been doing it for almost 10 years in our BPM space, and we have been automating because we knew that over a period of time, our BPO activity will have a cost pressure and the labor arbitrage will disappear. We needed to automate. That gives us a lot of knowledge and experience on various types of processes and various types of systems. We had one similar example, like, the Citrix based system where others were not able to do any automation, and we did it very successfully. I don't know whether Ashish had a call today. When they were with me, we got an email from our largest private bank, ICICI Bank, that we have done a very successful process implementation for RPA, which was based on the Citrix, which was, managing some 4,000 accounts a day to link with their direct, which is their trading account. So bank account linking with the trading account. Then I already
Yes, sir. Rajesh, hi. Ashish. And actually, hi. So actually, that's a pretty remarkable success for Datamatics and Signex both. And I just came from seeing that email. It actually says a lot of things. How mature this product is, how mature this solution is, and to what extent Rajesh and team has done that job. So, and then Citrix is one area where most of these RPA tools or products, they actually are scared to actually jump into it and do any customization or development. But looking at that email that I saw Rajesh today, I was honestly pretty impressed with what you guys are doing in ICICI Bank. And if that is the challenge that we can summarize in any of our call where this could be one of the good differentiating factor, then we go to sell anything in RPA versus Datamatics.
Thanks, Ashish. One more similar case we had in the recent past, which I don't know whether you are aware of it. There is a system called Murex, which most of the banks use for their treasury department. It is a universal and a monopolistic software for treasury department, having all the tasks associated with the treasury department managed in that software, and that is based on the technology platform which is having Java applets, and not many RPA players are able to do automation around Java applets or Java based systems. We have done a very successful implementation even in that area, and ICICI Bank again gave us as a challenge that okay, many have failed, but we feel that you can do a good justice to that, and we did very successfully even that piece of it. So we have those strong cases like Citrix-based legacy systems or the complex systems or the mainframes or black and white screens, terminal-based systems, which others are not even able to touch it. So I'm just giving you that confidence. I want to you people to carry home that statement that we are able to do justice to various complex processes and various complex systems, and in a much faster time frame compared to anybody else, which also gives us that we can offer a better ROI to our clients. In recent meetings with my US and Europe trip, some of my clients who are already partnered with others, I am not undermining the other players, they are quite good, but the ROI was a concern there because they are very expensive or very time consuming, and they take a lot of time and efforts to implement any kind of this thing, and they are also still able to do only the level 1. When I say level 1, again I talked about the simple processes, but then when they come across the complex thing and all, they are not able to do good justice to them. And the fourth point I already talked about, that we have our own character recognition engine. So in today's meeting with some of my team members, I even shared that I got one inquiry yesterday itself where they are dealing with Blue Prism as a technology for RPA, but they could not do the recognition on the physical documents which are scanned, and they want us to process them and couple it with Blue Prism, which technically we know we can do it, but maybe I will say no to that because I will always have an option to say that my IQ will work better with my Ivory's RPA solution than anybody else's RPA solution for as a marketing, gimmick, so that they stick to us and don't go with anybody else. But let's see. I have taken it up as a challenge. I have got some sample documents from them. We got very good results on them, and we will share it with the results with the client. It's a bank from Norway. And they want to see that whether it can, the output of our IQ can go into Blue Prism and not in iBreeze. Technically it can go because we have the connectors available for any type of system. But I'll take a call soon, internally decide how good that decision will be or bad that decision will be. And we have another thing, like we had one more player in ICICI Bank to start with, and they could not do justice, and the whole budget was moved to us, and now we have the single vendor doing all their processes, and we have done more than 200 processes, and almost 700 boards have been deployed in their environment.
Hey Rajesh, a quick question. Have you done any benchmarking studies against any of these competitors that you're talking of, like Blue Prism or any others?
Not benchmarking, but we have a comparative study which is there in front of you. For benchmarking, we need a copy of that license and do a proper job. We just can't do without just seeing it. But we have got some access to them. through our existing clients, and we have done this, which is there in front of you. So I'll tell you what is good at their end. They have a very good jazzy and good looking the environment for development, and they have some facilities to do drag and drop and all, but they have a very limited customization. So if I can say that their brands are better known and their packaging is better, their look and feel is more attractive, I'll not be wrong. Whereas the meat, if you check the substance inside that package, it will be weak. They will not be able to do justice. But of course, in today's world, even the packaging matters. So they do score better on that part from us. But if people really want the substance and to see the results, we will do a better job. Including Blue Prism and automation anywhere. And I'll tell you, Blue Prism is more common in Europe and automation anywhere in US. But some of my clients who are using them are struggling with the ROI part. Compatibility is another good point which I want to bring up, that whenever I saw them, they are trying to develop their own development environment, which is good, which is not bad, but it takes a lot of time. As you can see, Microsoft also has taken a lot of time to come to an environment which is still upgrading every time, and they have just started with. What we did as a very, very conscious decision that we will not create our own environment. We will straight away go with the Microsoft development environment, so that our people don't struggle with the two fronts. One is the development environment, second is the technology. So the development environment is known to them. A .NET developer can keep learning much faster than anybody else, and then there are no limitations. Like I'll give you the example of OpenSpan, and we got access to that because ICICI Bank gave us a chance to work on OpenSpan, which they have already bought some licenses, that your people are more intelligent and much better than the other lot. Can you do some implementation of OpenSpan, because we already have invested in the licenses. And when we saw their development environment, it was pathetic. It could not handle tables. It could not handle data which was some kind of alphanumeric and all. And as you can see, one of the points below, the debugging facility was not there at all. So if it doesn't work, how do you debug? So we also had to part with that, saying that okay, of course you might have invested, but the limitations which are there in this software are many, and we will not be able to meet your expectations unless you really ask the person who has given you the license to upgrade the development environment itself. The minimum basic thing required was debugging facility. The response time was very slow in those products. They take a lot of time to run the script or execution. I don't know why, but they have the response. We have a very quick response in our software. Then technology scalability we already talked about. We have these very easy support technology upgrades, our own software, and it's a comprehensive support also. We can give, since our own code, we can manage it. We are not dependent on the roadmap of a third party, that okay, after 3 months, they may not give a damn if we say that okay, this particular feature is required by one of my clients. They'll say okay, it may not be required by others, why we'll do it. But if we feel that it's a strategic client and we want to do it, I can definitely get it approved internally. We have a strong R&D team in Nashik, and we can get it done very fast. Training wise, as you know, first of all, I told you the development environment is standard, and even we have got a lot of what should I say, the components which are available. So we can definitely start doing the training in much less time compared to the others, because they have their own development environment. They have to teach the basics of the development environment, then the basics of the robotics, and then the basics of the implementation and debugging. And I already talked about the other thing, which is the faster ROI and better speed of implementation. So these are some of the benefits people have been deriving. Seamless integration through UI, fraud prevention, new opportunities are able to be tapped, transparency in the system, revenue increase, regulatory compliance, and the business transformation. These are some of the numbers of the evidences. So I may say all the generic things, but what are the numbers people have been deriving from this RPA? So one of the banks in India is using it for the tab-based account opening, the KYC process, which is a very common process. And because of this automation, they have been able to increase this account opening from 3,000 accounts a day to 15,000. This is a very remarkable thing. We should know that RPA is not 10-20% incremental benefit. It's a disruptive technology which will make things almost like redundant. It made it 5 times faster, 500% growth. Account reconciliations, bank account or ledger account reconciliations or investment reconciliation, tax reconciliation is a very good candidate for automation. And the number of people who were doing it manually earlier for one of the conglomerates based in India, Dubai and Singapore, name is Adani, and they are based out of Ahmedabad also, and we have been able to reduce it to 2 accountants to do this type of reconciliation. They have the TDS reconciliation, they have mutual fund investment reconciliation, revenue recognition, and then the bank reconciliation. They got how many? Certain 38 accounts?
39 banks and 139 accounts.
39 banks and 139 accounts. And customer service requests like change of phone number, change of address. Another very big example for one of the large banks in Europe, and we have been able to do very, very good justice to that. And it also had the trade finance, which is not mentioned here. The name of the bank is Deutsche Bank. Manufacturing company in the US, APAR processes 4 times growth of the document being processed. Another thing is the ATM dispute. It's a big thing, like, you know, when you ask for some money and you get less money or no money and still your account is debited, there is a penalty on the banks if they don't resolve in 48 hours. And they were finding it very difficult to meet up that requirement, and we have brought it down to 2 hours. Healthcare company, I think Ravi knows that in Dallas we have a large healthcare client, and I met him for that once, and we have been able to do very, very high level of automation for that client, and we have been able to brought down the efforts to the extent possible. This is the press releases from one of our clients, which is ICICI Bank, on saying that they are able to use robots to perform 1/5 of their internal jobs. So they have a strong back office team, 11,000 people in Hyderabad. Our processes have touched 3,000 people already in their back office. And now we are migrating to the mid office and front office also. In Kotak Bank, we have taken up a process which is the front office, where the request comes through a CRM. People are making those requests then and there through robots, and the robot is confirming back to that customer that yes, your active money request has been accepted, and based on certain minimum amount and maximum amount, your money will be transferred to a fixed deposit and you will get more interest, and once the requirement comes to withdraw that money, automatically it will be and done. I don't know, somebody had any question? This is one of our testimonials from the client on one of the processes called loan recall notice, and as you can see, number of people released, the savings, the increased efficiency, per day checking volume increased 3 times, and 100% efficiency. But the critical point is this. Today also we got a similar mail, which is what I shared with Ashish. This is that thing with Adani, which we did almost like 3-4 years back. Again, as you can see, benefited by improving productivity by 100%, TAT reduction 90% from 10 minutes to 1 minute, which is a very significant jump. And then the TDS receivable reconciliation got completed with efforts which are 50% and 100% accuracy. So this is very critical that it will achieve 100% accuracy. This is the approach we take up for any new clients, and I work with Vivek, Kapil, Ashish already on some of these leads. So we generally start with the demonstration, capability presentations, and then we talk about the POC. We identify the process for POC. We have a way of identifying a process for them if they want our help. We have some parameters, or we also have a similar processes listed for that particular sector, which we can share with the client that, okay, these are the typical processes which you have taken up for another client of your sector or your industry, and then these are the processes, benefits they have derived. Or we can give them the parameter, or we can do a workshop for them to study the processes and find out which are the processes applicable for POC. Then we do AGs, 2B, define success criteria, this is important, then share the timelines, we finalize the POC commercials, then we start the POC, demo, trial runs. This is why we are saying that we never start with a big bang. always our chairman and calls it go under the radar or go under the carpet. Make a small beginning, show the result, because it's very easy to show the results. It's not like a 6 months, 1 year contract, or it's not like a SAP implementation that you can't do it in pieces. You can show the quick hit results for smaller 1 or 2 processes very fast. These are some of the process identification parameters that it has to be rule driven. Not all of them together, maybe 1 or 2 should match, and then the process is typical candidate for RPA. Trigger processes are electronic in nature, a lot of calculations are involved in that process, then it's a good candidate. Repetitive in nature, we already talked about. Then data intensive, susceptible to errors, performed out of hours, which is another important point, because robots will never sleep, they will work 3 shifts, they will never get tired, they will never make mistakes. So if I have a process which needs 2 shifts, 3 shifts, I don't need 3 people, I can run the robot on the machine all the 3 shifts. It's as it is 3 times better, and then if it's double the speed, then it's 6 times better. And then another thing which I think will come up now, if I can manage the process workload of 6 people with 1 robot, then I need only 1 license of those costly ERP applications or the core banking. Even the license saving itself will make the business case for my clients. Start points, end points have to be determined. These are the typical processes which we generally take up: customer onboarding, claims processing, complaints, we talked about regulatory compliance, failed payments, card management, like the debit card, credit card or bank account, there are service charges and you are supposed to reverse them based on certain inputs. It is a good case. You are supposed to, in the trade finance, you are supposed to mark the monthly instructions for debiting the account for certain fees to continue with the LC over the next month. It's a good candidate. So we got lots of such cases which are very, very typical in a bank or insurance or manufacturing or logistics for that matter. And they are, like yesterday we were with Ashish and we were again with Thomas Cook, and they had a large requirement of reconciliation, KYC, and we are very keen to look at that. Even the HR part of it, human resources part of it, employee onboarding or data management, even in employee onboarding, like, there are repetitive processes and the same steps are performed every Monday when people join or every month beginning, that you give the Windows login, you create the email ID, you give them the access and everything, which are very typical for, of course, depending on the role, you might give some extra access, but the basic things are very, very common. So we have been doing it, like it's not restricted to the core business operations of our clients. We have gone up to audit, we have gone up to HR, we have gone up to reporting, or various support functions also we have already extended our arms to help them in automating their processes besides the core business operations for that organization. I will take up few case studies in various sectors, but you feel free if you want some more details or something, but depending on the time we have, I'll try to cover few case studies today. We have a huge list of processes. I told you 200 plus, and we have a physically printed list booklet of the processes and the soft copy, which we can share. I think Vivek and Ashish already have access to that, especially in the banking domain. One of the processes is the TDS exemption, which is very peculiar in India, and this exemption has to be given on time, and they have to mark in the customer account. Customer might remember only one of the accounts, but from the customer ID we can find out all the accounts, derive at what is the interest payable to that customer automatically in the core banking application. Also find out the age, as mentioned in the core banking. He might say different date of birth, but it is based on the age. And if it's everything is met, then it will mark that, okay, don't deduct the TDS on the interest payable to this customer. And if suppose the request came 2 days before and today you are marking for exemption, and in between you deducted the TDS, it will even create the credit voucher in the core banking application and credit the account with the TDS deducted already, and make sure that the customer is not at a disadvantage and he gets due credit, and it will complete the process. So what I am trying to say is that in this process there is no 2 systems, there is only one system, and the system has the capability of doing the interest calculation. It has the TDS exemption workflow. I have not designed them, but I am only invoking them and enabling them and completing the workflow through robot. So the robot logs into the core banking, performs the checks and balances, confirm that it's the right request and genuine request. It should be given the exemption, and then it will do the interest calculation, and then it will do the workflow. It will select that account number one by one and mark them for exemption automatically. And that when the exemption is given, a confirmation number is thrown by the banking software, which will be brought back to the audit log that yes, these are the accounts which have been marked for the exemption. Service request I already talked about. In the service request, the inputs come generally from the CRM package, might be CBIL or FCRM, Pinnacle CRM, or might be some other CRM, even Salesforce and all. So the incoming request will be read, the action will be taken up, and the confirmation message will be sent out through the CRM, which will be enabled by robotics application. The predefined template of the email will be selected, the necessary date of the transaction number will be inserted, and submit button will be hit to send out the mails which are already pre-templatized. ATM dispute, a complex process, very complex process. 7 different systems and reports are checked before you confirm that the account, the actual money was less, withdrawn was less. And if it was so, then it will even create a credit voucher and do the necessary credit. But suppose, just to give an example, some processes are not 100% automatable. Even in this case, suppose if you still find out that the amount withdrawn from the various reports is confirming that it's 10,000 only and not 5,000 as claimed by the person, then if you have to check the video recording of that particular ATM machine and all, then it will mark it for manual exception. Trade finance, LC and bank guarantee closure. If everything is met, then they have to go and close them, charge them with the necessary fee, and send out a confirmation that this LC or bank guarantee closed, so that customer get a confirmation that yes, they need not worry about that particular open LC or bank guarantee. Murex I already talked about, a very difficult system to automate with, and we have done this cash flow updation process in Murex, which is related to the daily rates of forex trades, which are updated, and the cash flow is managed for our banking clients. CERSAI is another compliance process where the home loan property mortgages are reported by the banks to the central registry, so the other banks do not end up giving the loan on the same property, which is a daily process. They are supposed to put up the details of a loan mortgage loan onto the central registry manually, which you have automated. So we read the information for the core banking and update the property details, the person borrower details, or the loan details. And when the CERSAI portal confirms that yes, it has accepted the request, the confirmation number is brought back to the core banking that this particular property mortgage has been reported to CERSAI successfully. Manufacturing also we have lots of cases. Bank reconciliation, and this we already talked about. Mutual fund revenue recognition I already talked about, that they are having like almost like group companies are 20 plus and having 200 mutual funds investment, and millions of worth transactions are to be checked. So they buy, sell the mutual funds, they have to recognize their revenue, and if there is a income from the sale or purchase, or if they get dividend or the NAV difference, that they were doing manually. We have automated the process. So RPA downloads the mutual fund statement either from the portal automatically or from the email attachments, and puts the data into SAP automatically. And then if suppose a particular mutual fund is showing that so many units are sold, and if the mutual fund is not existing, means if there was no previous existence of that mutual fund scheme, it will say, how did you sell it? It's not showing that there were units available. So all those checks and balances are done, and then at the end of it, it creates a P&L report on a daily basis to show what was the profit or loss from this investment in mutual funds. Insurance termination payout, when the policy either matures or terminates, they have to perform certain actions, do the checks and balances, check the policy terms, and based on what is promised and what whether the documents are in order, They have to actually make the payment out based on the rules, and then the payout happens through the bank account. They check the balance, they check the account details of the person who is going to receive the money, pay name and all this, bank account number, and then they will actually make the payment transfer, affect the transfer. Even in the banks, we are helping them to do the RTGS and EFT automation or the next automatic clearing houses automation. Of course, there is a maker-checker process. So we generally, for such critical process, don't automate the checker side of it, but we automate the maker side completely. New insurance policy application verification. So there are lots of checks and balances to be done. PAN number validation, Aadhaar number validation, date of birth, which they do manually. That is automated. Even in the KYC, I talked about for the core for large bank on the onboarding of a customer for a customer account opening. All the processes which they used to do manually are automated, checking the date of birth, checking whether the Aadhaar number is valid, checking whether the address is right, and whether when they give more than a document, they cross-check between those two documents. Nowadays, Aadhaar is one single document applicable, but earlier there were two documents, PAN number or a passport or driving license, and driving license across the states are different, voter's ID. So it reads from them, it reads, performs the validation, it goes to the Aadhaar site or it goes to the PAN site. Of course, the logins access are given to the bank's people, not to us, but we make use of them, and our software runs inside the bank premises, and it does all the validations automatically. So I can go on and talk about a lot of such case study, but I think in the interest of time, let me talk about some of the go-to-market which is of more interest to you, like whom to contact, what should be our pitch, what should we highlight in our calls or in the initial emails or in the first 1 or 2 meetings before we are called for the further discussions. I'll try to cover that in the remaining 5-10 minutes. So we always start with saying that it's very efficient, improve the productivity, minimum guarantee double, and it will also be accurate. So if you are doing 5 transactions in 1 hour, it will at least make it 10, if not 50, and it will be 100% accurate. And as I already talked about, it will save a lot of system licenses, highly scalable, flexible, because we have our own IP. That is one of the signals generally people listen to. Non-intrusive, we already discussed. Improves the turnaround time and make the process highly automated. We already talked about this benchmarking on comparison. Our own IP, experience of more than a decade, so we have very versatile experience, offering both our products and services. The ownership is ours, managing the most complex processes. I have not mentioned Citrix here, but that's one of the things, so old legacy systems, mainframe systems, and the Citrix-based applications. AI, we already talked about that. We can couple it with AI for better results. Own character recognition engine, IQ, and much faster implementation and more commercially viable, so better ROI. So I have seen, recently I got some customers, of course, it's an open market, so they are already married to some of the RPA vendors, but they themselves are saying that they are struggling to get the ROI, or they are themselves are saying that they are struggling to get the next level of processes. So I'll be very happy if they have tried it out or they try out another vendor, because then I at least can boast upon that, yes, I'm going there on merit. I don't want a situation where I am the only player, and they will learn themselves and they'll come back to us. And I'm talking about the HSBC Bank, which is out of the UK, and they said, of course, TCS is doing automation anywhere for us, but we are not getting the ROI. We even have a very good pricing strategy. There is no minimum commitment, unlike the others who at least ask for at least $200,000 or $500,000 minimum investment. We don't have that kind. So entry barriers are very minimal. We even start with a process which is hardly in Indian rupees, maybe 15, 20, 25 lakhs also. Whereas they will, even if they talk about $150,000 minimum, which will be at least, of course, it will have 10 or 12 licenses inbuilt, but that's the minimum commitment they have to give. It becomes very difficult because some people want to try it out and see the results before committing on such kind of investment. Pricing model is very transparent, And earlier we had this has been not a recent slide, but we have moved from the license and one-time setup to the subscription model, and the setup remains one time. I think Ashish and Vivek are already aware of it. So what we have done, we have brought down the license price but converted it to an annual subscription, so that we get a recurring revenue and the customers also end up paying less in the first year. Payback is almost always within the first year for most of our clients. And we also offer them to create a business case for them from our experience so that they can get the internal approvals. There is no special infrastructure required on the client machine or servers, etc., or not on the operating system, special softwares, nothing. They can continue with their existing system processes. We will deploy that light application on the desktops and it will start doing the processes automatically. So very quick in onboarding, and we have a ready skill set and swift delivery. We have necessary collaterals in place like brochures, presentations, case studies, flyers, press releases. On the movie side, we have some pre-recorded movies, but they were some of our customers' movies. So what we are doing now, I think even some of my current partners in Cimex should know, we are trying to simulate those screens and trying to create a virtual environment which looks very similar to what we have done for the banks, but we have done it on their impersonal thing. It's not specific to a bank or a person, so that those videos can be shared with you all and you can show it to the client. Right now it's little risky because if this falls in wrong hands, it will be an issue. So what we are taking up is some key processes, 5-10 processes. We are trying to create a video which is not having any specific personal information on a specific client of ours. We were trying to do that for quite some time. You will agree that it's not an easy job, because I don't want to make very dull screens and dummy looking like screen, because then it will lose the interest of the client. They will feel that yeah, they are just fooling us. It's not a live thing. And if I show actual live, then also it's not a good thing, because how can we show client's live system to another client? So we are trying to take up some process. We have done one process already, but we'll take up at least 3-4 processes to start with. Client references are available in the form of they are ready to take calls and give feedback, but maybe not been writing, but at least they are ready to talk. Of course, even one of my clients said, "Can we go and see them live?" I said, "Of course, you should, if they allow. But if they don't allow, that's not my prerogative. I will not insist that okay, you show your process to another client." The Kotak Mahindra people visited ICICI Bank in the recent past and had a very good time, lunch meeting, and asked about Datamatics and good meeting. But they didn't talk about what savings they have brought in, we have brought in for them, or what processes we have done, what kind of licensing model, prices are with us. But of course, how are we to work with, what kind of team we have, how good we are, how like knowledgeable my team is. All those references are definitely available. We can share the client names, client contacts, email address, phone numbers, and we can even set up a proper formal meetings or calls with them. Target customers, major is BFSI. We all agree that services are more common, more number of people are deployed. But we have also dealt with a lot of other industries like travel, manufacturing, retail, logistics. All geographies are important. Europe was difficult, but of late we got very good success. Middle East also we got very good success. And the other point is very typical of going to the CIO, but I have seen better results if you've gone through the business. Whichever client I have worked where the ownership or the is driven by the business, I have got faster results and better results. Wherever the IT is driving it, it's quite slow because the business does not own it, business does not share the process details, business is not very keen for automation, and then it takes a lot of time and a lot of resistance is there. But whichever client there is a business organization taking it over, or it's top driven, it's a mandate given to them, then it's much faster. Of course, we have to keep IT in loop. We have to take them into confidence. We have to supply the necessary information to them. But generally, I feel, I may be wrong, but the results are much better when it's driven by business people, either the CEO or CEO himself. For AP and F&A processes, CFO himself are better driven than going to a CIO or the CTO and then telling him to talk to the business and get them in the whole picture. We are targeting some top banks in India and globally as a must-have accounts, which we are working with Signex and Datamatics sales team very closely. These are some of the FAQs. I'll just keep it in front of you. May not have to read everything, but they are typical FAQs which we'll definitely share with you guys. This is the slide showing that the necessary infrastructure required is very, very standard, nothing special. Seventeenth point is very important. The general timeline, average timeline has been 4 weeks for an implementation for us, which is very, very good because within a month or maximum 1.5 months, you start seeing the results. I have done some process within 2 weeks also, which is not what I'm going to talk about or promise to start with, but 4 to 6 weeks is more than sufficient. Again, a typical question, can client customize? Technically, yes, but not to start with, because it needs special knowledge, the technology and training. So what we have done with most of our clients that we have got a roadmap, and once the client reaches a maturity and are ready to take it up, we are ready to train them, but not to start with. Productivity improvement we already talked about is in the range of 200%, 300%. Support. Of course, the typical support is available, but since generally we work in the T&M model, while some processes are automated and the team has moved on with the new processes, they can still support the previous processes. So there is no specific need. But let's assume a scenario where all the processes are automated, which generally does not happen so soon. We can keep some small team just to support those processes on site or off site, whatever suits them. Even for point number 24 is important. I didn't talk about that. When the machines are running the robots, only one robot will run at a time. It's like, can we have 2 people working simultaneously on the machine? Answer is no. It's like 2 people only, 1 person and 1 robot is like a virtual person, virtual workforce, or it's like another person who is not seen, so they can't work simultaneously. So I can load 3 robots in a machine, but only 1 robot will run at a time. IBRIS does not store any critical information on its own. It does not have a database of its own. It creates an audit log that also takes care of only the transaction number, date, timestamp, and robot ID. It does not store account number, amount, name, etc. at all. And even if it has to store the password for auto login and all, it will be stored in an encrypted format. So I think we are almost towards the end of 1 hour, little more than an hour. I am done with my sessions. I can take up if any more questions are there. Priyanka?
Yeah, Rajesh. Thank you so much, Rajesh. So we'll open the floor for questions. In case if anybody has any questions, you may please ask. I don't think so, Rajesh. Anyways, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for your time and for sharing such great insights. We have recorded the webinar and we would be sharing the recording with everyone. In case if you have any more questions after the webinar, you can please mail it to us, or you can mail it to Rajesh directly and get answers for the same. I guess
I think Ashish here. Priyanka, just a moment. Ashish here. Hey, Rajesh, I just need a help. If we wish to do a select, I would say, okay, let me put it this way. If we identify about, say, 10, 12 different audience at the business on a C-level in different regions, for example, in Asia Pacific, UK, US, and Europe, will you be keen in helping and doing this webinar for 1 hour with prior notice?
Yeah, sure, Ashish, more than happy to do that. I'm doing it for Datamatics, I'll do it for Signex as well. What we do there, I'll tell you very frankly, we have a mailer list and we have this, things which we collect from these events, mailing list. We tell them that webinar and this is the agenda, and we have conducted such successful webinars in the past, and we'll be more than happy to do it for you.
Wonderful. I think that should help. And Priyanka, please take a note of it. And I think we should, target so Rajesh and.
I also wanted to. I'm in US in the coming week for almost like few days, and if you have people have any hard pressing requirement or anything which is very urgent, I'll be more than happy to accommodate 1 or 2 such requests to meet up with the client in person in US. I'm there both in East Coast, West Coast.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rajesh. So, Priyanka, if we can identify a few banks and a few institutions, financial institutions that Vivek, Siddharth, and we can send that over to you. And we know some of the senior management guys there in the business and the IT side both. Since here, as Rajesh rightly said, that business, when it comes to business, the movement is much faster as compared to the IT side of the world. And we are typically facing this challenge as we speak in some of our customers, where Signex has introduced Rajesh. So with that said, we wish to do this maybe at least once in 2 months and identify those target audience, and which we'll send you those audience. Let's do in a small group, say 10, 15, 20, and then we can scale it up. But this is the right way to move forward and get these audience attracted towards our solution.
Right, Ashish. Sure, we can do that. We'll definitely do that.
All right, okay. That's all from my side.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we don't have any further questions. In case if there are any, please feel free to write to us. We'll forward it to Rajesh. You can directly write to Rajesh. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for your time, and thank you everyone for attending the session.
So much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.